Testing. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name's Robbie Watkins. I'm a member of Kadampa Center, and I've been asked to sit in this morning in the absence of Geshe Geluk and Geshe Sampo, our resident teachers. So I'll be leading what is a discussion this morning. Our schedule is a little bit different today. We'll start with our prayers and some meditation, and then we'll have our discussion, and then we'll be winding that up around 11:30, at which point we're going to have a presentation by our treasurer extraordinaire, David Strevel, and then we'll finish with our closing prayers and be done by 12 noon. I think the presentation by David will be interesting and very important to everybody who's interested in the health of the center. So we're going to begin with some prayers. Let's see. Are you going to be Amse, Donna? Okay, thank you.
So in your gold prayer book, turn to page 34. And if you have the white binder, just go to the first page of text. And at the top of page 34 above daily prayers is Shakyamuni Buddha mantra, and we will say that 3 times. Taya tao mune mune maha munaye soha. Taya tao mune mune maha munaye soha. Taya tao mune mune maha munaye soha. And then we'll recite the 4 immeasurables at the center of the page. And let's take a moment and think about what we're saying while we speak it too. We tend to race through it, and I find myself not thinking about it. So, may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And then we'll go to page 37, where the 4 immeasurables are in Tibetan, and we will chant that. Sem chen tam che de wa dong de wei gyu dong den pa gyur chik du gal dong du gal gi gyu dong drel wa gyur chik du gal me pe de wa dong mi drel wa gyur chik nye ring chok dong ni dong drel wei tong nyong la ne par gyur chik. And And then we'll chant Chenrezig's mantra 8 times. Chenrezig is a Buddha of compassion, and there's a image of the 1,000-armed Chenrezig up at the top of the post over there by the wall. And then we'll say Green Tara's mantra 7 times. And Green Tara is a female Buddha who represents enlightened activity. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Om Tare Tu Re Soha. 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 Okay, the children can go to their classes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Donna. Just looking fine. Do we have anyone who's here for the very first time today? Okay, a couple of people. We're glad to have you here. Welcome. I hope you find the discussion helpful and interesting. The quality of the discussion depends upon everyone's participation. So let's begin with some meditation. I think most people are here familiar with meditation. We'll maybe do about 10 minutes just to settle our mind. Begin by checking your posture. Your back, whether you're seated in a chair or on a cushion, is a little bit straighter than you normally sit. Your head is straight on your shoulders. Eyes either just slightly open or lightly closed. Lips slightly closed, your jaw's not tense. Shoulders are down, back a little bit. Arms are away from your torso. Right hand on left with thumbs touching slightly below your navel. If you're sitting in a chair, your legs are flat on the floor, and if the chair's a little tall for you, it's fine to put a cushion underneath your feet. If you're on a cushion, sit a little bit to the front of the cushion and have your legs in a posture that's comfortable and stable for you. So take a minute and identify any sources of stress or tension in the posture and address them now so that they don't become an issue during the meditation. And begin by taking 3 deep breaths from the abdomen so that the stomach expands on the in-breath and then contracts towards the spine on the exhalation. Just 3 deep breaths in that pattern. And now allow your breathing to return to its normal pattern. And we begin by the meditation, as always, by setting our motivation. And as much as possible, we generate the bodhicitta motivation, the wish to become enlightened so that we can be of benefit to all sentient beings. There are two parts. We want to become enlightened so we can benefit others. That's the bodhicitta aspiration. And that probably doesn't come naturally to most of us. Something we have to force out to a certain degree, but that's okay. But it's based on an understanding of how others have been kind to us, by the spontaneous wish to repay that kindness, and an understanding that the greatest way we can repay that kindness is to develop our own qualities of compassion and wisdom so that we can be of greater benefit to others. That's the bodhicitta aspiration. So see if you can think along those lines for just a moment. And having set our motivation, we'll begin the actual meditation practice, which is just watching the breath, placing the awareness on the physical sensation of the breath moving in and out through our nostrils. Nothing more, nothing less than that. Awareness of the breath. And every time our mind wanders off to something else, as it inevitably will, a sound or an itch or a memory or a fantasy, we just set that aside and come back to the breath over and over and over again. And you can relax your concentration. And let's see, if we could take just 2 minutes and just introduce yourself to someone you may not know or people you don't know well. You're allowed to get up from your chairs and move around. No. Mm-hmm. Okay, if we could come back to our seats, please. Okay. Okay, so this is going to be a discussion this morning, so we're going to ask people to use the mics when they speak. So let's see, maybe if we could have one person man the mic on that side because it helps everybody to hear the comments, and we're being streamed around the world. And there are thousands, if not millions, of people listening in who want to hear your words of wisdom. Well, there are at least 2 or 3, I think, yeah. Yeah, one in Costa Rica. Yeah, great. Okay, so let's see, who has the mic on this side? Oh, okay, Joe, thank you. I was trying to think what to lead a discussion on this morning. And I just happened to turn on the radio, and it was 2 people screaming at each other. Surprise, surprise. And I was saying, what's the Buddhist point of view about this? And it just led me to think, not an original thought on my part, but there's just an incredible amount of anger ripening in our society right now, and a lot of divisiveness and resentment towards others and blaming. It's very interesting. And there are all sorts of Buddhist techniques to deal with that and to help change that into ultimately the cause for enlightenment, we can say. But the one that's kept coming to my mind is the instruction of the Buddha is to see everyone else as a Buddha. See every person that you meet or come in contact with or is in your world as a Buddha. And I don't want this to be a political discussion at all, but I wanted to talk, that's something we give lip service to a lot, but we don't really talk about it, and I wanted to talk about what that actually means, and is it possible, and what are the possible benefits to go through our life as seeing everyone as a Buddha. So the first thing we have to do is make sure we're clear on what we're talking about when we talk about a Buddha. What is a Buddha? Or who is a Buddha? Who qualifies as a Buddha? It's not someone who's just sitting up here on a high throne or something. Can anybody give me the party definition? Buddha? Okay, Guillermo. Oh, okay. You'll go back there. Okay. Yeah, and then you.
I'm sorry, what was the other one?
Hmm?
The question was the definition of a Buddha.
Yeah.
To my understanding, it's a sentient being who has become enlightened, or
Uh-huh.
perhaps after they're enlightened.
Yeah,
Maybe
okay.
they're-
It's someone who's achieved the state of enlightenment. And so the follow up question is, what is enlightenment? Okay. You want to take it away here?
To be awake.
To be awake, yeah, that's a definition of enlightenment. So, what does to be awake mean? Let's try in the middle back there.
So to be awake, there's a lot of facets to it. One's to escape illusions, delusions of the mind, right?
Mhm.
And to escape constant rebirth in the realm of suffering.
Okay, yeah. Ridding your mind of delusions, removing oneself from the cycle of samsara, constant rebirth. We're getting close, okay. There are two main characteristics to enlightenment. What is an enlightened mind?
Well, the enlightened mind has reached the perfection of all the stages of the path.
Yeah, okay. And the two main stages of the path are?
Wisdom and compassion.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Okay. So everything was correct. I was trying to get a little bit more specific. A Buddha is a sentient being. It means a being with consciousness. So it could be a cockroach, could be a human being, could be a being in another realm who has developed his or her mind to the has perfected the qualities of compassion and wisdom. So then the next question is, what is compassion? What is wisdom? Who wants to compassion? What's compassion? You can just shout it out, yeah.
The wish that others not suffer.
Yes, compassion is the wish that others be free of suffering, and wisdom is. Yes, thank you, Chris. Seeing things as they truly exist, seeing reality. And this gets back to what you said about ridding our mind of delusions. So a Buddha is a being who has completely developed, has perfected those two qualities in their mind, and has removed all other negative qualities. And so really all the teachings of the Buddha are about developing compassion and developing wisdom. You know, you come to anything here at Kadampa Center, no matter how weird or ritualistic or bizarre it seems, at some level it's about either developing compassion or developing wisdom. Those are the two wings of the bird of enlightenment. The bird needs both to fly, and as Gareth Barham said, I quote this all the time, you have to be nice and you have to be smart. You can't just be one or the other. A Buddha has to be nice and smart at the same time. Okay. So that's what a Buddha is. So the teaching is to see everyone as a, one more. What can a Buddha do? What are the, we got a question here. Yeah, go. Okay. Okay. So one other thing I wanted to clarify before we get into this is, what can a Buddha do? Can a Buddha take away my suffering? If I meet a Buddha, can he say, you're free of suffering? No, because he would have done it if he could have, or if she could have. What can a Buddha do? What's the main function of a Buddha? To teach, okay? A Buddha is a teacher. A Buddha is a sentient being who shares what he or she has learned by studying their own mind and says, this is what worked for me. Give it a try if you want to. A Buddha is not a god. A Buddha is not someone we worship, okay? A Buddha does not have the power to remove the suffering of others. A Buddha is someone who is awake, who can share their experience. So a Buddha can teach. That's what a Buddha can do. So what does that mean then if we put this teaching into effect and we see everyone as a Buddha? What's your reaction to that? Is that possible? Is it realistic? Is it something we want to do? There's Annabelle Brown. She's a Buddha. Welcome. Anybody want to take that and run with it? Okay, over here. Yeah.
Thank you. I think by looking at others as each person having an opportunity to teach you something.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what does that mean? Yeah, elaborate on that.
I think no matter what is being presented to you,
Mhm.
because
If someone's
sometimes-
screaming in your
yes,
face, yes.
Yes, there's an opportunity there, a gem, something to look for within that situation about yourself, about what are they trying to teach you,
Mm-hmm.
and being open to that.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
I think it's not necessarily the case that the other person is actually thinking of trying to teach you something, but rather that somewhere in what they're saying or wishing to do, that there is some kind of wisdom. In other words, you and your thinking don't possess all wisdom, and if you search around through what they're saying, you can find some wisdom, but that's not quite the same as saying they're always trying to teach that to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hey, I'm Jeff. Yeah, to piggyback on what David said, I agree. Not everybody's trying to teach you something, but there's an opportunity for me to learn no matter what that person is presenting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's dependent on my own mind, my own frame of reference. So given Robbie's example, somebody screaming in your face, what does that give me? It gives me an opportunity to practice patience, if nothing else,
Mm-hmm.
just to sit there and not interact with whatever anger or attachments come in my way. So if nothing else, I can do that much. Don't make it worse, right?
Okay. Let's see, we have right here in the front chair. What's your name?
I'm Lindsay.
Okay, Lindsay, thank you.
We were talking earlier about seeing the truth as it is, and it seems to me that none of us are probably able to really perceive that truth as we are. So we are given the opportunity when, especially engaging with somebody who disagrees with us, to examine that that sort of truth that it's probably really somewhere in between what everybody's saying.
I think that's a very important point that I wanted to touch on later. I mean, this if we are to see everyone as a Buddha, that implies that for most of us, the way we see most people is not necessarily correct or true. Okay, this kind of says, don't buy into your preconceptions that this is a horrible person and they're to be scorned and they're terrible and there's no good qualities there at all. That's, reality may be somewhat different. Things aren't as black and white as we tend to see them. Yeah. Thank you.
There's also two different kinds of reality. There's conventional and ultimate.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so
Y'all
conventional.
are bring up all the points I wanted to touch.
Conventional.
You're ahead of me. I'm playing catch up.
And it helps me because like when the blank hits the fan, that's usually conventional reality. That's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it is conventional reality that some people are not nice to me and I'm not nice to others.
Mm-hmm.
The ultimate truth is, and I can do this, I did a meditation on this week, where I can take a couple of people and just put myself in their shoes, and we're all the same in wanting to be happy and not suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And that is ultimate reality.
Yeah.
That's non-duality.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, can we function in day-to-day life seeing everyone as a Buddha? Is that realistic? Is that even possible? And what does that mean? Yeah. Let's go back to Elise behind. Yeah. This side of the room, y'all got to pick up the pace over here. Yeah.
just to expand what you already said, when we see somebody else as a Buddha, we think, well, what keeps us from being expressing our Buddha nature? And it's fears, attachments, anger, all of these different negative emotions that none of us really want to have. So when we encounter someone else that we immediately want to label as enemy or other, or instead, if we can see them as having a Buddha nature but prevented from expressing it because of fears, we think, well, what are they afraid of? What are they so attached to that they're afraid of losing? So if we can look at it in that way, and we can have some compassion for them and be more patient.
Yeah. Okay.
I just have a question. In the context of this discussion, when we're saying, we want to practice seeing everyone as a Buddha, like what exactly do you mean like that? Like seeing everyone as someone who's already fully enlightened, or seeing everyone as someone who doesn't want to suffer and wants happiness? Like, in the context of this discussion, how are we meaning that?
Well, that's a good question. I think what Elise was talking about was kind of a step on that direction, to not see other people as other, but to see the similarities. But the actual teaching is actually to see everyone as enlightened, as an enlightened being, okay, who is a teacher. Yeah, so that's the ultimate. Then we've got to deal with conventional reality and ultimate reality. We have to function in life. If we see some guy kicking his dog, are we supposed to go up and do prostrations to him and tell him that, say thank you for the wonderful teaching, please continue, it's benefiting me so much, please keep kicking that poor dog? What does it mean, in day-to-day life? Or what if we see two people fighting, punching each other? Are they both Buddhas? Or are we supposed to see two Buddhas fighting each other? I don't know. We're trying to work that out here. Okay, yeah.
Well, going back earlier, because I don't know what I would do with two people fighting, but I know that, and this kind of goes back to being inspired by, in a discussion one time, Venerable Rubina said she could look at Mao as, possibly a Buddha who did everything he did to help ripen people's karma. And there are times when when I'm dealing with somebody who's particularly difficult, who really pushes all my buttons, to think, this person could be a Buddha who's intentionally pushing all my buttons to give me an opportunity to explore that and to deal with it. And another aspect, I think, of seeing people around me as a Buddha is that there are people that I will automatically treat with deference and respect and be happy to do what they need done, because I see them as being somehow, being higher than I am. And if I look at everybody around me as a Buddha, then that helps that to kick in.
So, okay, I'm just going to play it. So if you see everyone as a Buddha, would you ever question anyone or confront them about unskillful behavior? Does this lead into cults and things like that if we see everyone as a Buddha?
Yeah, I think that's a danger.
Yeah. So how do we avoid that danger? I'm just throwing this out. Yeah. How do we avoid that? Yeah. I mean. Oh, okay. Well, you can say, yeah. I was just thinking out loud. You can go ahead and.
I remember an instance years ago when you and I and someone else was cleaning up after a teaching, and a visitor had come, and she was cranky. She complained about us. She complained about our center. She told us everything we were doing wrong, et cetera, et cetera. So after she left, this other person said, "Boy, well, that was a real winner," or something like that. And you said, "Be careful, she could be a Buddha." You said that. And very good. So it just, to me, that said, look at my own mind when I'm looking at this cranky, critical person. And for me, it's about reflecting on how I am seeing them.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Let's see, back to Elise. Okay.
The other thing, one of the Buddha's first teachings was to say not to believe him or anything he says until you've tested it out yourself.
Exactly.
So one of the important things to do when you see the Buddha nature in others or want to label someone as the Buddha is to hold that belief that he's got the Buddha nature, but then also thoroughly check him out before you follow what they say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even if we're convinced that another person is a Buddha, we still have to bring our critical qualities and evaluate. Yeah, we can't. There's no blind faith. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Back to the front, please.
Perhaps another way to look at is realize that everything that is happening around us, persons, situations, whatever happened around us, is just effect of what we done before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not showing randomly. So if someone is screaming out there, is because you believe in karma. Is something that we done before.
Mm-hmm.
Is showing up now, and it's an effect.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going after is how we are going to react to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you look for this perspective, no? It's nothing to be afraid of. It's just something that is showing up because we did something before.
Mm-hmm. All right. Everything that happens to us is a result of our karma. And what happens to us in the future is determined by how we react to it. Yeah, so that's in some ways that's actually, it helps us relax a little bit, to fight less against the unpleasant things in our life, not to ignore them, but to be somewhat more accepting. Mm-hmm. So if we saw everyone as a Buddha, as everything as a teaching, how would our minds change? What would be different? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe we will become less judgmental.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Less judgmental. Okay.
Maybe we'll approach every conversation like we're a journalist interviewing the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Like asking the why, the what, and the how, instead of just saying one-dimensional sentences. Okay.
Instead of saying you're wrong.
Yeah, but just like foreign staff, and like, why you feel that way? Why you do things like that?
Uh-huh. Okay.
Be more curious about the person.
Okay. Yeah.
I've often wondered if we thought of, not bringing this up to go further with it, but just if we thought of our president as a Buddha, how would we feel different? So
Mm-hmm.
if we all just tried it a little bit, it would be, we probably wouldn't say, oh my God. You know, we would have a different kind of reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the big.
So that's your practice for the week, Jill. Yeah, Jeff.
So
I've been doing it since he got elected to some extent, and it's helped tremendously because I thought the minute it happened, I went, I'm going to have to do something or this is going to go south really bad, which...
Or we'll get you a MAGA bumper sticker.
But just trying a little bit, you just... I mean, Venerable Amy did that. She goes, just look at him differently, and it helps so much, even if it's just a little bit watered down.
I mean, it helps your own mind. You know, it's not changing what's happening out there, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
So going back to what Robbie said in the beginning about setting our intention, our motivation when we were meditating, that's supposed to be bodhicitta, the wish, that I become enlightened so that I can help everybody else become enlightened. And if you're anything like me, I find that very difficult and frustrating, and I have sometimes I'll question whether this is even possible for somebody that's as screwy as I am. So maybe it helps for me to imagine this not only in myself, but in other people, so that I can see hey, maybe this isn't a crazy idea. Maybe it really is possible, and just practice imagining as if it has already taken place, right? Which, again, may be drinking the Kool-Aid a little too deeply, but it's fun to practice these things, even if I can't maintain it for very long.
Yeah. Okay. Joey?
I just had a thought that if we viewed everybody as the Buddha, then maybe we can view it as they're here to support us, to the point that, everything we do depends on others. They're helping us to some degree, whether it be practicing on patience, whether it be practicing generosity, whether it be practicing wisdom, whatever it may be.
Yeah, this gets back to what we were talking about earlier, developing bodhicitta. If we can see everyone as being infinitely kind to us, say, thank you for doing this. Thank you for showing me this. Thank you for rubbing me the wrong way so I can develop patience. And then the wish to repay that kindness, of the people who we normally just label as enemies, but the wish to repay that kindness arises almost spontaneously. And that's straight on the path to developing bodhicitta. So it's really seeing others as the cause of our own enlightenment. Yeah, it's very interesting, yeah. Okay. Wait for the mic. Yeah, Don.
Annabelle has something.
No.
Oh, okay. So I was thinking, this idea of seeing everybody as a Buddha is sort of, definitely is emphasized in the highest esoteric teachings. Not so much in the Sutrayana as the Vajrayana teachings. And ordinarily, for at least for me, it's like when I try to see myself as a Buddha, it's like putting on a wetsuit. It's like, I think, okay, I'm just ordinary me, and then I gloss. It's like putting on a wetsuit. Imagining the wetsuit as the enlightened being covering up this imperfect, polluted being. It's not a pure view of myself as a Buddha. So I don't really connect with the Buddha nature. And it's the same way when I look at other people as a Buddha. It's sort of like, well, I can creatively align with seeing. It's kind of like they're all wearing wetsuits, but deep inside, I know they're kind of messed up. And that's just I don't think I'm unique in that way. I think we all sort of we're trying to train ourselves to see people's Buddha nature and relate to that rather than just our ordinary projections, which I think the greatest way to learn this practice of seeing others as a Buddha is to start out with one person, and particularly like one's guru, seeing that like Lama Zopa Rinpoche or Lama Yet, I had His Holiness the Dalai Lama, seeing that one person as having, no faults, but somehow our mind is constantly judging them. Well, he shouldn't be clearing his throat, and look how he's irreverent, and he should have said it differently, or his syntax isn't perfect. You can just, such a great opportunity to look at how my mind distorts reality if I'm taking the position that this person is pure and perfect. Then I can see it's a great way to look at my mind and learn how I constantly destroy my happiness by projecting onto everything my delusions. He's bad, she's good, this is this way, this is that way. So I think it's a powerful tool, but it is not a simple one to develop. I mean, you just see everybody as Buddha. Good luck.
Yeah.
It's like the bumper sticker. Just say no. Okay. Good luck.
So you're saying start with a guru or someone like that, and then expand eventually to include others, and then work out. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's it's a little bit of like you said, it's something that we can give lip service to, but the actual reality of it is something that we probably can't experience until we are deep into the Vajrayana path. And I certainly think an understanding, as you talked about earlier, an understanding of emptiness, that which implies that these qualities that we dislike in others, that we see as existing inherently in that person, are not there without our mind perceiving them. So an understanding of emptiness, I think, is really crucial to really making this teaching real, but it's probably pretty far down the path for most of us. For those of us who aren't there yet, we can work on the thought transformation, which are kind of maybe a little bit more practical. And there's a wonderful text called The 8 Verses of Thought Transformation. And I just wanted to read the first one because it touches on a lot of the points we've mentioned. Determined to obtain the greatest possible benefit from all sentient beings. So it doesn't mean necessarily seeing them as a Buddha, but determined to benefit from my interaction with them, no matter who they are, who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, more precious than a jewel that fulfills all my wishes. Others, everyone, not just the nice people, but all other beings are that precious. I will hold them most dear at all times. So that's not seeing them as a Buddha, but that's something that may be a little bit more practical for us on our path where we are now. Seeing others as incredibly precious, and we hold them dear. So we relate to everyone, even the people that really push our buttons, as precious and something we hold dear. So let me just read that again. Determined to obtain the greatest possible benefit from all sentient beings, who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, I will hold them most dear at all times. Okay. Let's see. Any other comments? Yeah.
Where I work, I have to deal with a lot of different people and get along with a lot of different workers, and a lot of times people will come up already kind of mad or something, and I guess I had this mental trick where I just pretend I have Teflon on me and I can just
like
slide off and
yeah.
just keep giving them good back, you know. And I don't know, a lot of times it's hard to in that moment see the good in a person, but later on, if you bring it with you and you think about it, and then I'll see that person, or I'll see that person another day, and they're just wonderful. I just think a lot of times, people are always good, but there's things that may have happened during that day or in their life that pulled them off that path to kind of unload it on you, like a little dump truck, just
yeah.
The stuff that happened to them, they're just getting rid of it, and I think it helps to look at a lot of these experiences as lessons. What can you learn from what just happened? Did I have a negative reaction because it's something reflected within me, that I didn't like, and just seeing that, and like on bigger things like with the president or whatnot, maybe this is something we're learning to be ready for the future, to maybe if it's not letting it happen again or whatever that may be, just to be more aware and more involved in the future with things.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Let's see. One last comment, and then we're going to do a brief meditation. So I think, they got the mic.
So, I guess I don't know if this is relevant, but one of the things that I feel like I struggle with, like I'm able to have a lot of, like I work with people who have raped and murdered and molested children, and the list goes on, and I have I'm able to have a lot of compassion. But then for less severe occurrences or, you know, situations that come into my personal life, that's where I end up struggling, because I feel like I'm able to keep a safe distance. But then when it comes into getting closer and closer to me, I struggle with that, like the line. Where is the line, and how do I protect myself, and where do I have the compassion? So I'm wondering if there's any, like how do you have compassion and protect yourself, you know, while engaging with people, and where do you keep them in terms of, like, you know, engaging, like, and having relationship. So I mean, I guess that's where I oftentimes struggle. It's not with, like, feeling like I understand someone's humanness, but only when it comes to me keeping safety. You know?
I mean, great question. That'd be good for another Sunday morning discussion. I think we all understand what you're saying and have been there. I think part of it goes back to what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the difference between true compassion and empathy. There's a difference there. And what we aim to develop really is true compassion, which is not, you know, which is very invigorating, very, very positive sort of feeling. But I'm not going to discuss that all this morning, but thank you for bringing it up. So we have just a couple minutes before I turn the floor over to Mr. Strevel, so let's just do a final meditation. Thank you, everyone, for your participation in the discussion. We'll just do a little bit of review. Check your posture. Settle your mind. So we've had a great discussion about the idea of seeing everyone as a Buddha, starting from understanding that a Buddha is a sentient being who has completely developed his or her qualities of compassion, the wish that others be free of suffering, and the quality of wisdom, a direct perception of reality. And we can certainly see the benefit in seeing others as Buddhas, though it may not be possible where we are right now. But at least if we can begin with the teachings on thought transformation, seeing others as more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, so precious that we hold them dear. And this is others with no exception at all, not just the nice people or the people who are kind to us or have done us favors, but everyone. All those that we've never met, all those who we interpret as having harmed ourselves, they are all equally precious to us and are the ultimate cause of our enlightenment. Okay, thank you, everyone. I'm going to turn the floor over now to David Strevel, who's going to make his presentation, and he'll have a little time for questions at the end, and then we'll do our closing prayers.
Sure. Make So, members and visitors, a couple of times a year we lurch from these rich philosophical discussions into the harsh reality of financing our center. And I'm the treasurer, David Strevel. So that's what we're going to talk about now for just a few minutes, and then there'll probably be another presentation early in the next year. It's almost time for our annual appeal, the time of year where we ask people to make monthly commitments of donations to the center. And of course, donations are the only thing that keeps us here. All of the money has to come from donations. And so what I'm going to talk about today is our expenses and our budget for this upcoming year and how we're doing financially for this year. And perhaps we should turn the lights down somewhat. I think people could maybe turn them all off. Give that a try. There, I hope that's best.
That's good.
To start off, I'd like to just mention our organization. We'll talk about our financial results so far this year and our budget for next year. And we are, as most churches, a North Carolina nonprofit corporation. We're managed by a board of directors led by Robbie Watkins, our center director, who just spoke to us this morning. And Hemant Pandya is our president. I know he's here somewhere today. Sandy Carlson's our secretary. I'm David Strevel, the treasurer. And we have 6 other members on the board of directors, and every year we have to plan our budgets and we have to meet the legal requirements of the state and pay our taxes and administer our whole program so that we can try to make donations equal expenses. So let me drag this thing out here so I can see it a little better while you're looking at that screen. Here is our 2017 income to date in about 5 big categories. And you see that annual appeal is listed first with $97,000 in income. That's what's come in from monthly donations, from monthly sustainers, and also from one-time givers. And then this year, the second line there, Light of the Path Retreat. Of course, about 7 weeks ago or so, we concluded that month-long retreat, and that is a very big deal and responsibility for our center. It has a great deal of expense and income associated with it. And so far, to date, the income has been $97,000 from this year's. We run our bookstore here where we sell books and holy objects and merchandise. And we take that whole bookstore up to the Light of the Path retreat at Black Mountain. So this year the income's been $37,000. General Dana means general gifts like cash that aren't identifiable to a person. Our spiritual program has brought in $28,000, which included about $18,000 for the Lama Atisha statue donations this year. And then we have some other small amounts of income coming to $277,000 so far this year. Then there's our expenses. As at most churches, hiring personnel is the single biggest expense. We have Geshe Gelik and Geshe Sangpo on the payroll. We have a housing allowance for them and some travel allowance, and we buy them health insurance. And we have a center manager, Jill Marie. She has a full-time salary and some insurance connected with that, and Amanda Henry, part-time, to assist with bookkeeping. So that's all in that personnel category. The Light of the Path retreat is on the books for $66,000 here. That's not all the expenses yet. It's very slow to get settled up with the retreat center. That's not done yet. Administration means bank fees and accounting and supplies and being on the internet. Facility operating means all the utilities like propane and electricity, insurance, paying the interest on our mortgage. We spent $26,000 buying things to sell at the bookstore. And committee expense includes the children's program, prison project, and so on. Mortgage principal, we're still paying on our mortgage. We have about 3.5 years to go. And our spiritual program, and this year that included not only paying for visiting teacher expenses, but the Lama Atisha statue. So that has come to $308,000. So here's the summary. We've had income of $277,000 and expenses of $308,000. And right now we're running a deficit of $31,000, which is a lot. I'm hoping that donations that come in near the end of the year will erase it. Our goal every year is to try to break even. If we have a surplus, that's great. If we have a minor deficit, it would be okay if it was small, but it can't be too big. We don't have a big reserve of money on hand. And so we're thinking the Light of the Path will have a good financial surplus this year. Here at the center, donations have been less than expenses, and we're hoping for a surge to make it break even. Here's a little insight into our mortgage. We owe $74,000, and we have paid that down by about $100,000 over the last 2 years. We had some extra funds on hand about 18 months ago, and so we did extra payments to reduce it. And now we have 3.5 years to go, and our minimum payment every year is about $23,000. So that's part of our ongoing expense. So our current financial situation is we have about $25,000 in the checking account as of a couple days ago, and $16,000 in our special projects fund. That's what we use to buy things like the Atisha statue. The checking balance, $25,000, would be good if we were a family, but here at the center, that's about 1 month worth of bills. So if donations didn't constantly come in, the checking account would be empty in a month. The Special Projects Fund is only for Dharma-related projects. We fill up that fund from bookstore profits from selling Dharma books. And the board has decided to set those aside and do that. So again, we hope that through the rest of this year we'll find a way where donations exceed expenses and we erase the deficit. Now looking ahead to next year, it's nearing the end of the year. I know it seems sudden that the weather has not been making you think the end of the year is near. But we have been on the board and with our center manager thinking about next year's expenses, and really they are much the same from one year to the next. So we look at everything we spent this year and we ask, well, next year, is it going to go up or down? Where can we save any money? And so on. And so we have a tentative budget for next year. It'll be on the internet on our website by tomorrow morning. And in that tentative budget, we have no pay or benefit increases. We're not going to have a 25th anniversary party this year. We do not have to finance Light of the Path for $120,000. And we don't expect to be buying an Atisha statue, so the budget will be smaller. Expected expenses are $255,000, and so we will be trying to figure out how to bring in $255,000 to just pay the bills. So what are the issues about all this? we have gone over the expenses several times, and the board still has to review it again at next month's meeting. We have cut out the few things that seemed like we could reduce, but we cannot really seem to cut below a plan to spend $255,000, and that's 55% going to personnel, and the other percentages you see there. We will not have a Light of the Path retreat in 2018, which is a big change from the last 2 years. It's occurred in 2016 and 2017. In 2018, it will not occur. And so when you look at our sources of planned income, we expect 70% of it all to come from the annual appeal, which starts in the next week or two. So to balance the expenses, we're going to have to set the monthly pledges at $96,000. That's our goal of what we would like to have the total pledges add up to. And the one-time pledges, those who give in a big sum usually near the end of the year or the beginning of the next year, we're setting that at $81,000. And these pledge levels are a 26% increase from the amounts we've had for this year. And I don't like to have to tell people this because we have been having very good fortune the last couple of years. The Light of the Path, with bookstore sales there and the surpluses we've had there, have been bringing in funds and making us break even when donations here at the center actually have kind of been lagging behind. This next year, we will not have that source of income. Now, I always feel like we really earn that income because, boy, it is a lot of work to put on a one-month retreat. It disrupts everything here. So many people do so much volunteer work. But this year, it is not going to, next year, it's not going to occur. So that's just the way it's going to be. Just reflecting on this year, for this to date, we've received $95,000 in donations from last year's annual appeal. And we hope that erasing the year-end deficit will bring that total income up to $140,000. But for next year, 2018, we need $177,000 compared to $140,000. So that's the 25 or 26% increase I'm talking about here. And so just to give you an example, if $177,000 in pledges is to come from about 120 families, which is what our pledging has been in the past, there's been about 120 families participate this last year. So that means the pledges would have to be about $1,500 per family for the year, or about $125 a month on average. And of course, there are people who, a small number of people who give way more than that. And there are many people whose family finances are such that they must make much more modest donations. That's just fine. We are trying to deliver the Dharma to everyone without fees or charges or membership fees or anything like that. But somehow or other, we are going to have to come up with this total amount of money. So those of us who can do so must increase our pledges, in my view, while we continue to offer the Dharma to all. And as part of thinking about this as treasurer, I began to realize, I can't really go tell people we need a 26% increase in pledges without increasing my own pledge, which is a little, it's a slightly distressing, but I began to realize, wow, I'm going to have to stand up here and tell people we need 26% more. I've been pledging for years. I am probably going to have to raise the donation for Elise and myself for at least 26% this year for next year. Make the pledge in the next month here. And so I'm telling you, I am going to do that. And I am going to be prodding.
Everybody hear that?
I'm telling. I'm going to be telling the board at our next meeting that I want all of them to do the same thing, and I don't know whether they'll be able to and can, but if they can, you can bet we'll be bragging about it a little bit, and part of the campaign will probably be to say that every board member has signed on and they realize we've got to raise donations this year, and I'm hopeful we can do that. So we're just going to have to find more funds, raise more funds locally here, and not depend on the Light of the Path retreat to bring in the surplus. That's what I'm saying. So let's talk about our long-term financial plan. Our most fundamental goal every year is not to have a deficit. We at least have to try to get enough donations in the door to pay the bills. We know that spending money is not really what Buddhism is about, in my view, but we've got to do it in order to keep the center together, maintain our buildings, pay our taxes, buy all the things we need. So that's balanced with opportunities for volunteer work, especially for those who would like to participate and do not have a huge family budget. The board on our wish list has several things we'd like to do in the future if we had any extra money. One is pay down and pay off our mortgage. And I think we will have, if it doesn't happen sooner, we will have a big party in 3.5 years when we get that done, because that will free up quite a lot of money every year to use for something else. In our 10 years here in this building, we have been steadily paying down our loans and our mortgage. And like I said, it's now down to 70-some thousand, and it's headed down toward zero. Very good news. Then we would like to create an IRA retirement plan for our employees. We don't have any such thing now. Our Geshis do have Social Security, but of course there's a long-term concern about what to do, and should the center be making some contribution to that, or at least setting up an IRA plan. And of course, and we have a long-term fund too. I haven't mentioned it. We have a total of $3,000 in a Vanguard account. If anyone would like to make a long-term donation to our center, they can put restrictions on it if they choose, or they can just say use it to support the annual expenses. We can accept donations of stock, and we can sell those if that's what is requested, or we can keep it as an investment and just hope that it will grow over the years, so that eventually, if we do need a larger building or we do need remodeling or some kind of big expense, that we will have funds on hand. The total reserve we have there now is kind of just symbolic. It's only $3,000. So that's our wish list. So to wrap up, in 2017 we had about 100 monthly supporters and about 20 people who gave one-time gifts. We're hoping that'll increase somewhat in 2018. With no Light of the Path as an income source, we are going to have to generate more here in our center this year. And if you'd like to see all the details, we do have a church computer system. It's called Realm, and you've probably received emails from it. It's been a great thing over the last 1.5 years. We've managed to install that. It's designed just for church or religious group use. It keeps track of all the members. It does all the bookkeeping. And that's where we create our budget, and the reports from that will be online on our website. Last year's budget already is there, and next year's proposed budget will be there by tomorrow. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions. Of course, it's obvious to all of us that it's only the generosity of us that makes our center possible. So thank you, and keep up the good work. And if there are any questions of any kind, I'd be happy to answer them. Yes, Jill. Well, thank you for that question. Yes, we do have an ability to accept any kind of donation that way, whether while you are alive or before you know, after you've passed on to your next life.
You can't take it with you.
Yeah, you can't take it with you. And so like all charitable organizations, public radio or all those other organizations, we are quite capable of accepting tax-deductible donations. It could be from your IRA. If you're 70 or older, we can accept donations from that, and that relieves you of the taxes on that money, etc. There's lots of ways to do it, and our center manager or I would be happy to talk about it. Yes, we, you know, a lot of organizations like ours that have been established for years probably receive goodly amounts as the years go by from people mentioning them in the will and so on, and we'd be delighted if that happened in the long run. Yeah. Dorothy.
Will there be any teachers coming next year?
Well, yes, I think Donna could answer that best.
I'm sorry, I was signaling Jill for the microphone and didn't listen to the question.
Oh, visiting teachers next year. What's on the program?
Okay. So we definitely have Venerable Amy is going to come again in February for a weekend, and then we are looking for hoping to have Geshe Gelug's teacher Khensa Rinpoche coming again in the springtime. I don't have anything lined up for later in the year, but we will have at least those two visits. The question for those on the online is: do visiting teachers help bring in additional income? And yes and no. I mean, we do always offer opportunities for people to sponsor them, and at the very minimum, that covers the cost of having the teacher here. And then sometimes it's also extra income for the center.
Yes, we have in the budget, I believe, something like $8,000 in donations for next year hoped for, but with about $4,000 or $5,000 in expenses, because say getting Khensa Rinpoche here from India, which we would be paying for ourselves, costs a lot. I would imagine he would be traveling with at least a couple other people, bringing them here, you know, so there's quite a lot of bills involved, but we usually end up with somewhat more donations than expenses. Yes, sir. Yeah, here's a question. Just speak it, and I'll repeat it.
So yeah, just a couple of things. I'm embarrassed I didn't make a donation last year. I'm not on your mailing list. You need to get on your mailing list as a member, I guess. So I don't know whether there are other people that aren't on your mailing list, but I'm not. What is the best way to give? Is it a one-time? Is it on a monthly? I mean, if you had your wish, other than $100,000, what is the best way to give? Because I heard 2 or 3 ways.
Yeah.
And if I give one way, then do I have to give another way as well? I mean,
our center manager manages the annual appeal, Jill Marie. Yeah.
So we'll start in a couple weeks with the annual appeal, and
now how will he get it in the mail if he's
so
not on the list?
So you can sign up for the mailing list outside at the concierge desk, and that's one way to get the emails. To get those are the general, we call them the pretty emails that have all the information. To get the inside scoop, you have to go onto Realm and sign up as someone on that system to receive all the things that come from Don and myself and any kind of management team. Yes, but you can go on our website and sign up for it too. Our secure online community, you see it on the home page, you can see it on the donate page. So once you go to our website, it's pretty clear how to sign on. You can click on community, and that will sign you up to our emails. No, that I could probably have been announcing that more readily how to get on. Right. So our website would be the sole source. If you wanted to give, like, say you were giving, let's just say $5,000, we could all imagine it might be easier or more cost effective to do it in a check that goes straight into the bank because no fees are charged for online system to go through. We're happy to have it received any way that works for you. Text giving, going straight to Realm and giving that way, signing up as a monthly supporter is a consistency that we love because we know it's coming in. But if it was a large check, you know, like for Lama Tisha, some of those checks were larger. Gifts were larger. A check in a large amount just written out to the Kadampa Center probably is the most cost-effective way to give. But we still want to encourage people to be monthly supporters because it's like we know it's coming in. So either way that works for you is going to work for us.
Yes, I guess we have 100 to a little more than 100 monthly supporters, and they give in several different ways. You can sign up on our computer system to have an automatic draft from your bank account. You can use a credit card and draw on that, and our computer system will draw on that computer system. The only negative in the whole thing is that we pay about 2.75% in fees to make that happen. That goes to the banking system and our financial agent. So if it does come down to giving a large donation in a lump, really a check is the best. Because we get 100% of it.
Or, yeah.
Robbie?
Yeah, and I just want to remind people that they can make their annual donation by giving stocks. And especially this year with the tremendous increase in the stock market, if that's an option for you, that's a relatively painless way to increase your donation without feeling it in your pocketbook necessarily. And Jill can explain the logistics of giving stock. But it has a lot of tax advantages for certain people.
Yeah, that's right. If you have appreciated stock and you don't want to pay the capital gains tax, you can donate the shares. Goes to our Vanguard account, then we can sell those shares and use the money as your donation. And that's good for people who have stocks. Patty. Well, I'd say we are prepared to react, but with the uncertainty about the timing of his visit and some uncertainty about the certainty of the visit, and a lot of uncertainty about whether he would in fact even come to our center or whether he'd just drive by and say a prayer and be gone in 5 minutes. We really just have no idea, no reliable idea. There's probably a lot of ideas, but are they right? So we just don't know, and although it's an exciting possibility, we'd all love it to happen. In our budget at the moment, there is neither income nor expense because we just don't know what to do. And I'm thinking that in the long run, if he is going to make a visit right here to this room, that's great, but the expenses could well equal the donations, and so I don't feel like we can reliably put anything into the budget yet. We will love to do it when things clarify, I hope by early in the new year. But yes, it's an exciting possibility for next year. It's not in the budget yet.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Let's do our prayers.
Okay, let's change over to our closing prayers.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
David is a volunteer here and is one who puts incredible amount of time and effort into helping Kadampa Center run. So thank you, David.
Okay, let's turn to page 246 in the Gold Prayer Book, and we'll recite the dedication from Shantideva. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain a notion of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And before we let you all go, of course, there's an announcement or two. Steve Hale is here today, and he will be leading a newcomer orientation. If anyone is interested in hearing that, then that'll be happening here in the back of the room. Also, there are a couple of events coming up this week. On Friday is a Buddha Holy Day, Labab Duchen, which marks Buddha's descent from Tushita and coming back to teach after his passing. And so we're going to have it's a good day to do practice because it's an especially powerful day. And we will have a Medicine Buddha Puja here in the evening, and anyone that's also open for sponsorship if you're interested. And on Saturday, we'll have a day of meditation, a meditation retreat that's going to be led, and that fulfills the obligations of the meditation, how to meditate part of the Discovering Buddhism, if you're interested in that, but you don't need to be a DB student to come. And I also just want to add something on to David's presentation. When that number of the budget came up, it kind of really struck me. It hasn't been that long ago that I was serving on the committee that put together the annual appeal, and I remember when it was a big deal, and we did this very trepidatiously, that we set an actual goal of how much we were going to try to raise instead of just asking for money. And that big daring goal was $50,000 for a year. So we've come a long way, and that's thanks to all of you. So thank you. And Elise also has an announcement.
I'm Elise, the Outreach Coordinator, and to follow up the discussion we had earlier about seeing the Buddha nature in everybody, I have a brilliant opportunity for all of you today. This afternoon at 3 o'clock, there's going to be an interfaith prayer service on the theme of the season of sharing, and it will be your opportunity to hear the prayers of 10 different faith organizations on how they view sharing and finding compassion for all people. It's going to be held at the Hindu Society of North Carolina on Aviation Parkway in the building in the back of the parking lot. So please consider joining us today. Also keep an ear out. We're going to have an opportunity to celebrate Thanksgiving with an interfaith group on Thursday, November 16th, whatever that Thursday is, and I will get details out to you within the next couple of days. Thank you.
One more. Can't go home yet.
So to help the bottom line, we have in the bookstore, I just wanted to let you know that this huge shipment of all the T-shirts came in for Think Something Good, and then the Every Thought Matters, Every Action Counts, and the hoodies that we were waiting for small ones for the Think Something Good are all in. An order from Snow Leopard Trust just came in. A huge Nepal order is coming in soon. So here's the new hoodie to introduce. Every thought matters, every action counts. So these are words of Geshe-la, and I just wanted to let you know all those hoodies arrived too. So shop till you drop. Christmas shopping. and our new volunteer in the bookstore. Miranda's will help you.